Greetings, explorers. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. I hope that each of you are well, exploring new things, new places near and afar, as well as exploring new ways of relating to others. Today, I have a conversation that I have longed to have with this panel of men, and I hope that it is one that you will like, share, and even subscribe to the show. This conversation is about empowerment and not speaking from a place of a damaged or a wounded viewpoint, but it's about actually including the Black man's perspective in the American story. Oftentimes we don't hear the Black man's perspective, or we don't allow the Black man to create his own narrative and to tell his own experiences in this very racialized world or society. Black men are generally underrepresented in the American story in a positive manner. We know that they're overrepresented when it comes down to statistics as it pertains to the prison profit system, crime statistics, life expectancy rates, unemployment rates, earnings, and currently the COVID-19 death rate. So today, I am so grateful that this panel of men have decided to talk with me about the Black man in America.
I'm Jasani. I can be found on Facebook only at J Washington, simply Jay Washington. I'm an African American male living on the west side of Chicago. I currently work at Legal Prep Chart Academy, which is an African American high school for high school students, freshmen to seniors, and specifically working there because it gives me the opportunity to do exactly what Madam Moderator was talking about, educate and speak to our young African American men about who they are. That's my target. And that's what I try to do every day, is empower them about who they are, because they don't see that enough. They don't hear that enough. And it's evident when I just sit down and talk to them without them saying it. I just see that they don't believe in themselves. And my goal is to get them to change their attitude about themselves by the time they graduate high school.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to follow from that, from what my brother just said. So I'm originally from Cameroon. First of all, my name is Solomon Tabo. I'm originally from Cameroon. So I've been living in the United States now for about 10 years. So I'm currently working as a medical technologist at Covance. Covance is one of the pharmaceutical research organizations here in Indiana. So we were involved in a lot of the vaccines that we see now on the market. So we're doing the testing for on the Johnson and Johnson vaccine and also the AstraZeneca. So all the participants that were involved in all the involved in the study, we were they were actually the companies were using our platforms, and we were really heavily involved in doing all the testing. So and sending the results so they could also send to the FDA for approval. So that is basically what I do. I'm also a father of a 6-year-old, black son. So that's why this conversation is very interesting to me because, when I turn on the news, there's always a breaking news about, a young black male, something's happening. So, as somebody that has become kind of like integrated into the culture and, is building a foundation here. So I'm always interested in, learning and also kind of understanding the various viewpoints so that I can empower my son so that as he grows up in this society, he can also be, he can be aware of his environment and also know how to navigate the whole system so that he can also succeed. So I'm really looking forward to this great conversation. Thank you.
I am Brian Martin. I am living on the west side of Chicago, well, the west suburbs of Chicago. I have been married 4 years now. No children yet. some soon, hopefully. But yeah, I work at a place called CMC Materials where we work with semiconductors. So anything from cell phones, laptops, anything that has a chip in it, we are making solutions for those chips. So yeah, we were pretty busy during the pandemic with all of the crazy stuff going on. So also you can find me on Instagram only as b_photos.shot.on. I also am an amateur photographer in my spare time. Like to take photos of downtown Chicago or wherever I can, find some cool places. So that's a bit about me.
Coach.
All right. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Leon Hite, Coach Hite. I am married. I'm a father of 3 kids, 16-year-old daughter, 15. I'm sorry, she acts 15. 11-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. Here, my wife and I live in the St. Louis area. We're in St. Charles, Missouri, in the suburbs of St. Louis. I work for Jennings School District during the day. I'm the security director for that school district, a director of safety and security for that school. I hope that I bring a few things to the table with this situation because I actually have police officers that work for me, black and white, inside a school system and 99% African-American community that I work in and been in education 20 years. So from a law enforcement standpoint, also a school administrator standpoint, I definitely know both sides of that too as well, being armed at work as well. Myself to the hilt, and also having a black son that I'm raising as well. That is 10 years old, size 12 shoe. He's 5'6", and today we measured him. A coach did. He's got a 5'8" wingspan. So I'm too having them courageous conversations as well about being aware of your surroundings and how people perceive you, and being in a community where I live, where it's only 2 African American families in our subdivision. He is quickly realizing that people notice him a lot different and treat him differently as well. So being excited about having a conversation with you all, young brothers as well. And then you, my sister too, as well. I appreciate you doing this. This means a lot. Thank you.
I am Quentin Boyd. I work with special ed students at St. Louis Public Schools. I've been doing it for about 7 to 8 years.
How do you feel when you're leaving home daily? What are some of the things that you think about or you do as a Black man to prepare for wherever you're going, but to prepare that you're going to return in the evening?
I was thinking about this, like how to answer that question. I've been thinking about it for all week. And so I just got through celebrating our church's 75th church anniversary today. And so putting up the stuff, I was thinking about that question. And one of the things that came to my mind is like, it's not so what is wrong with me what is wrong with me being Black? More than I've been thinking like, what is not right that everybody has a problem with me being Black? And lately I've been asking God, like, can you show me what is not right with me that everybody has a problem with me being Black? Because it goes to, like, when I go in the store, you look at me. When I walk down the street, you look at me. If I'm, in a particular area that, quote unquote, I'm not supposed to be in, you look at me. But the person that's standing next to me, you're not staring at them. You're not looking at them. You're not grabbing your purse. And it's a cycle that's continuing. Like, I'm 45. And, as a African-American male, even before high school, my goal was always to get to Africa because that's where people look like me. And it's something about getting to Africa. And I got that opportunity a couple of years ago. I got the opportunity to go to Rwanda, and I felt so at home because everybody looked like me. And even in college, I remember I had to write a paper about my identity. And the professor, the first statement I said on my paper was, I have no identity because I was taught that they don't want me in Africa because I'm not really African. And I'm not an American because you don't treat me like an American. Like, I'm here, but I'm really not here. Like, this is not my country. And so for a long time, I really felt lost because I had no connection. And it's not until now where I'm like really starting to tap into like, who am I as an African American male? Because when I walk out the door, there's a perception that's already on my back. Like, even when I go to work, although I'm working in an all African American school, my school is ran by Caucasians and they have their perception. And I have to convince them that something that you're saying, something that you're doing is not right. And then that's like, would you treat your child like this? Would you teach your child like this? Would you like allow these particular things to happen? And so my question to me is like always been, what is not right with me that you have a problem with me, as an African American male?
Okay, I think I might let me jump right into the conversation at this point. So for me personally, before I came to the States, like every other African, you really don't understand what most black men face in the United States. You just come, you are very innocent, you just think life is good, everybody is being treated the same, things are everything is fine. But by the time you start to get yourself into the society, you start to work, you start to go to school, then you start realizing that, oh, things are not as nice, as beautiful like you see on TV. People are actually going through a lot of things that is not because of any fault of their own, but it's just because of the system and the world in which we are in. The generational problems and issues that people are facing on a daily basis. And then you have to ask yourself the question, now that you are coming into the system, what do you want to be? How do you want to be part of do you want to be part of the solution, or do you want to just stand by and, and be a spectator? Because you are not different, because you might think, okay, you are coming from outside, but very soon when you driving down the street, you will have the same encounter with, the police, or when you go to work, people will still perceive you the same way because your skin color follows you everywhere. So for me, I live every day I'm very intentional with how I do certain things. So very, very intentional. So I try to learn, I try to observe how things are going. And as a Christian also, I try to be an ally of anybody or a people that I see that they are not being justly treated, or they are not being treated fairly, you know. So again, so when I go to work, before I leave the house in the morning, I ask myself a couple of questions. How is Solomon going to be seen, you know, dressing this way, talking this way, acting this way, So I ask myself these questions before I step out of the door, before I get into the car. I make sure all my ID cards are in checked, they are up to date, everything is intact. I make sure if I forget anything, I would turn back and grab my ID card, make sure I put it in my pocket before I go to work, even if I'm late. I might text the supervisor and say, hey, I'm coming late, but I had to get everything. Yes. And I look myself in the mirror. Am I dressed as somebody working in the medical field? I, because I know that by the time I go to work, you are not just judging me based on, my work ethic. You are also looking at me with a lot of other stereotypes, so I don't want too much of attention that is already existing because of who I am, being, everything on top of how, you perceive the way I came to work. So I'm very intentional, and I also try to be like a role model. I try to, like, talk to other young people at work, especially, young Black men, Africans, African Americans, try to share my experience, try to teach them how, the work is done properly and how, they have to, approach the work so that they don't get, they can overcome certain barriers that we are already facing because of my experiences, that I've faced, working, in a place where you are always, the minority. So for me, in short, I would say is living life in a very, very intentional manner. And before leaving the house, I try to commit everything in the hands of God, because at the end of the day, He's the one that decides,
Absolutely.
who breathes and who doesn't. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep. I want to switch. This isn't a question that I've probably posed to any of you, but Bryant, as I was sitting here just thinking about, you have a different look, right? And so one of the things is you have very long locks.
Mhm.
And one of the things we know is African American men are generally judged, and women, myself, I wear locks as well. Do you feel like you have to present differently because you are wearing locks? And we know that there's this stereotype. Feel you have to show up in a space differently?
Exactly. So if you don't know, I have really long hair, and no matter where I go, I mean, I try to be mild-mannered, present myself in the most respectable manner, but I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter. Just for instance, me and a guy were downtown Chicago, uh, taking pictures. He was white, I'm black. There's a bunch of people around. A couple walks up to us, looks right at me, and asks me to buy weed. Why? You didn't ask the guy next to me, but you just assumed because of the way I look that I'm a drug dealer. And then I'm going to sell you weed in broad daylight on the street. No.
Right.
Just things like that. Like, no matter what we do, those stereotypes, those preconceived notions that what you see on TV is what you think real life is. That's not the case. But yeah, still in 2021, you get judged on how your appearance is. And no matter what you do, no matter how you try to portray yourself, it doesn't matter.
Right. And this is my little brother. And so what's funny is he is, if any stereotype is associated with a black man with locks, he's the far end opposite of any of that.
Yeah.
He drives a Subaru sports car. So that just shows you. And he wears, what is it? GTI, STI t-shirts.
Yeah, I wear a lot of car stuff. Yeah.
So he's the total opposite. And it's unfortunate that we are judged and we have to be concerned with how we show up in spaces on a regular basis. Even as a black male, I am praying for those in my family and those that I know daily. So let me ask you in particular, Coach Hite and Jay as well. Both of you work with Black boys, and Hite, you run an alternative program. And so tell me, what are some of the things, and you coach Black young guys, and you've been coaching. So what are the conversations like that you feel like you have to have? And even with your son?
I mean, it got me sweating thinking about it. Because it's almost like one of the things I'm big on now is I'm just getting to the point, like some of the gentlemen brothers were talking about just a second ago. We know we have to play by some different rules. So, I used to coach football, but now I coach life. So I'm life coaching. So I'm looking at it differently now because I work with all my boys about life. It wasn't about football. I mean, as a head football coach for high school and stuff, you never had to really coach football. You got a lot of assistant coaches. You were coaching about life, decisions. The party only lasts for a moment, but a decision lasts for a lifetime. I mean, you were coming up with things to get them to understand outside or off the field. That was the whole thing. That's why I always yell out live on the field of life. Because at some point, as a black male, we just got to understand the rules are in place. We may not like it, and I'm all right with that because I don't. But we have to go about things differently. And how the brothers just described, I do the same thing. I will be late to turn around and get that license. I will go all the way back to go get everything. I'm talking about, and I'm armed to the hilt, and I got degrees to the hilt, but it does not matter. As a black man, I still need to do that. And even my white counterparts will say stuff like, well, what was the big deal, Leon? You could have just not had your ID and told the officer you forgot it. We just do not have those same rules. I know we want to say we do. Some people want to, but we don't. And I told a lady the other day, she was like, I just feel like everybody's pushing me to have white guilt. I mean, that's between you and God on where your guilt level is as a white person. But if you never try to know you never know what we dealing with, that's the part I got a problem with. You're never trying to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. If I could just say it like this, for the people that's listening, that's going to get tuned out because we talk about white and black. Let's just say they just show pictures of UFOs, and they've been saying that the military been knowing this for years, and they showing them, right? Now, those people are saying, I just can't identify what it is, but I want to know what it is. I want to understand how can it just, break the laws of gravity, right? So if those are Martians, if those are whatever you want to go into saying it, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, but I'm saying I want to know what that is and how is it on that side, right? Yeah. So why are they never trying to find out what's it like that we go through? And we're not Martians, we're not aliens, we live right here. One thing I'm gonna say, this last part is that I feel like some people, like all the insurrection stuff that happened and stuff like that, a lot of them are former military, and some of them are people I'm sure live in my neighborhood. It's to the point to where it's like they are fearful, and that's the part they don't want to admit. Fearful that they may be the minority, and they got to experience what we keep talking about. We experience all the time. And that's the scary part for some of them. They look at it like they're losing their foothold. And it's not supposed to be like that in this country because everybody is quote unquote created equal. So I think that's the part we fighting against, the ignorance part. And as a black man, we just got to make the adjustments until it catches up to the rest of the group. We just got to make those adjustments. And these brothers are talking about the hidden things that brothers do every day. You going to figure out what you going to wear. You going to make sure you looking right and you got your head on a swivel. But other people, they don't do that stuff when they leave the house. They're not even concerned with that. What they say, it's not a thing, Leon. It's not a thing.
Yeah. That's true.
That's you.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I and speaking to what the coach was saying, and that's been my stance since I've been working at the school. One of the reasons why I started working at the school that I was at was because I saw that they had an all-white staff, no black staff. So it was like 99% of the students were black, 8% of the staff was white, and I had a problem with that. And my intentions, even as I was doing my internship at the school, was really like telling the students and talking to the students about who they are, and trying to build a basis from there. Because I see that a lot of our struggles just within our community is because of a lot of our young people don't have an identity about who they are. And then what I find is that they don't even want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about who they are. And I've gotten the privilege of being a teacher this year because of this horrible thing of COVID. They put me into the classroom. And I had a struggle with that, but then I began to pray to God and like, okay, God, show me what I can do with this class. And so what I've been doing is really talking about like who the students are, giving them a basic understanding about who they are, social things that they need about themselves, skills that they need to acquire. And on Fridays, I have them do writing assignments. So I pose 3 or 4 questions and then they have to write about it.
It's true.
And a lot, like this one particular male student is like, there's nothing positive about him. There's nothing going on that he likes, everything is negative. And I just feel so bad because I'm like, it's so many of our males that feel that way, that don't think there's anything about them that's worth anything. And that's what drives me though, every day is waking up. And I'll tell them, you're important, You matter.
Yeah.
What you say matter. And I'll keep telling them that every day. And I'm like, somebody is going to click with somebody because of what Coach was saying, what Solomon is saying. I don't want them to like walk out of their door being afraid to be who they are. I want you to walk out your door and be aware of who you are, aware of your surroundings, but be confident about who you are. And that's what drives me every day to get up and go to work, because I'm like, I want students to feel like I felt growing up, like lost in my mind about who I am, because, you know, we don't talk about that. You know, talk about, you know, who we are as Africans. I'm not from Africa. I'm from America. I'm not from that country. And I'm like, no, you are from that country. And if they didn't take us in slavery, you would still following some of those same traditions. And we're getting so far away from African traditions. And I think that's what's hindering our communities from growing, because we don't tap into, you know, those things. And it's good to hear that some people are starting to move back towards that, sitting down, talking about who they are. And I think the more those seeds are planted, the better return we'll get, you know, in our communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you know, just to say something about what, you know, my brother Jason just said about being aware of your identity, it's because I had an experience, because sometimes, you know, when most like Black men, they try to share their experiences, it's very hard for some people to understand, you know, because they'll be like, what are you talking about? You know, I don't know what you're talking about. But those are some of the things that is very difficult to express, because they happen in such a way that it's so difficult for you to actually express them in words. For example, I remember the first time that I was very much aware of what is truly going on, you know, like some of the racism that is actually going on in the United States, was one time that I was in school, and Dr. Monica, you know, the school in Ferguson there. So I was sitting on a table with one of the instructors. So there were two of them. And no, actually there were three of them. It was during lunchtime. So the three instructors, all of them were white. And then I was the only, you know, lone student that was, you know, sitting on the table, because the table was empty. So I brought my lunch, I just sat down, and then I was eating. And then one of them, he was not really an instructor. He was just working, doing maintenance around the school and things like that. So he turned around. There was another Black student that was sitting right behind us, behind that table. So he turned around and he said, Solomon, why don't you go sit with the Black student that is that is sitting on the Black table back there? And then one of the doctors turned around and looked at him and be like, you know, that was the first time that I became aware of my Blackness. You know, because I know that I'm Black, that, you know, I know that I'm an African. I know I have a thick accent. I know all that. But that's the first time that the society, that the system made me to be very much aware that, hey, we know that you know these things about yourself, but let's tell you who you are. So, you know, so that's why I say, and I mean, it's very difficult. How can you explain that? How can I explain that to my son? You know, but hey, somebody's going to remind him that life is not, you know, this is who you are. But here's the first experience that I had, just arriving in the States in less than 3 years. So, yeah.